Already, in this part we'll be doing the fuel tank, so just hide the mudguards we don't need it anymore. In between doing these I realised the ref's a bit out of scale, I think. So the main width of the bike's 82.6, so just make a box that width. Just the pivot so it's in the middle, and then we can align it to the middle of the ref. And you can see the wing mirrors should be 82.6, so we'll just scale the ref down to match that. And now we've done that, we just delete the box, we don't need it anymore. And then to start we'll just make a plane, just one segment, as that's all we need for anything. Convert to edit poly, and again we'll just start the poly pushing. Again, with modelling you should always try and keep it even sized quads. Yeah, it's usually easier to add segments to what you already have rather than shift drag in like over and over and over again. Yeah, these parts need to be straight, so I'll just delete them and then just re-add them. Just flicking on and off edge constraint as we need it. The reason to move that is just to keep the edge loops around the edge, just making like nice topology as we go. You can see the refs aren't aligned at all, so just roughly use them as a guide really. Okay, now we've actually got our cuts kind of evenly distributed. We'll kind of match the actual shape of what we're trying to make. Always going to go around and just do it by eye. I might as well just move the ref and then we can just match it up a bit easier. It's a little technique you can use if you go into animation and then set the skin pose of the reference image, and we can basically move it to wherever we want. As long as we keep it selected, or as long as you keep selected, because I hadn't selected it then, you can do assume skin pose and then it'll snap back to where it is. So then you can move it wherever you want and always bring something back to its original pose. Doesn't matter if you're doing bones, meshes, anything, it will still work. So now we'll just use the little ring slider just to move to the next ring, and then we'll just go down and make sure it matches up to the reference. And just add your turbo smooth and the symmetry. And then we'll just continue matching the ref really. Yeah, shift drag as usual, and then just a little bit of editing as we go. Again, trying to keep the even quads. And same again, just pull it back to match the ref. You can see if you actually do model with loops in mind, then doing things like selecting all these verts just makes things a lot easier. And we can just bridge these to make nice quads again. And just flip into local coordinate mode, then we can just push all these back in. So essentially a little curve here. So it's easier just to use local and just push them in. Yeah, I've got that on a hotkey as well, so I can just switch between view and local when I need it. And we'll just scale these in to make a bit more even. You know, always make sure you check like the final result just to make sure it's all smooth. A few little bubbles in the mesh, so we'll just even out a little bit. Was just going to make this edge loop and then go from there, but it's usually a little easier to make the final shape without edge loops, and then you can just add in the edge loops to harden the edge off afterwards. Yeah, just decided to do that method anyway. A bit easier. Essentially where we started the bottom curve was a little bit past where the actual ref is, so we'll just move this a little bit past where the actual ref is as well. Just try and make a nice like smooth curve around really. And just ring and connect. And edge constraint again, just to snap the edges together. Yeah, just using the right clicking the spinner there to snap it to the middle. Again, should always try and make the final shape before adding in the other loops. So we'll just push this up to match the reference. Just using Alt X for the transparency here, and then just showing the result as we go. Don't worry too massively about the end result at the moment, because we haven't added in any of the other loops, so it'll be really loose at the moment. So we'll just get rid of this, and then it's easier just to add it in back in now. Now the final shape's a bit closer. This extra little cut down here just to make sure the flow of the edges goes around all the creases. Just trying to figure out how to quad this up smoother. Basically just add in another polygon and that will do it. And just even out a bit. Basically just using the specular reflection there just to look for any dents or pinches in the mesh. And then we can continue with making the hard edges on this piece. Basically here we've got two creases that both cancel together and then just go to like a kind of like a half crease. So basically we'll just use 3 edges per hard edge like we usually do. Essential on any surface, if you want a crease that stops and then goes into like a smooth curve or whatever, you basically just collapse the 3 edges into one, like we'll do in a sec here. So we've got 3 for edge loops, and then we just collapse it, and then delete the middle edge to quad it up. Essentially, because we did that on the symmetry line, it creates a bit of pinching, but if we do it not on the symmetry, then that's fine. And because these two creases need to merge together, we just need to push them a bit closer together. Just matching up to the ref as we go. There, if you just keep on turning on and off the little eye in E4C Manager, and you can basically easier to see like the discrepancies in your mesh to see how well it matches up. So you can just flick it on and off and see which parts don't match up properly. And we'll just do the same for the bottom crease there. Instead of target welding, if you've just got an edge in the middle, then you can just select that edge and collapse it. And it's control backspace to remove edges as well as the vertices. I've just got that on one of my tablet buttons, so I can just press it and it always does control backspace for me, which makes things a little easier. And just do a little bit of poly pushing to smoothen out the little lumps. It doesn't quite match up, so we just push these up a bit. Near enough there at the moment. Essentially, because we've got a little pinch there, basically just moving it on one side and then checking the other side. So we can look at the final mesh without all the vertices in the way. Just put up to 3 iterations there. Just sometimes when you're on 2, if you're doing quite a little low poly stuff like we are here, it's not quite dense. And sometimes it won't errors won't show at 2 iterations, but they will on 3. So I just pumped it up, and it still looks smooth on 3. So we'll just leave it as it is because it's all nice and smooth. Basically going to do it in between a 3x2 block, which will equal 10 sides rather than 8. So essentially you don't always have to use 8 for a circle hole. Just kind of work with what mesh you got at that time, really. So essentially we've got 6 polygons here, which are pretty much around where the circle is, so the borders of that will equals 10, so you'll just use a 10. And as usual, just trace around it with the cut tool with Snap-on. So we're just going to leave a few n-gons here because it still leads to a smooth result. So essentially by quadding the edge of this up would actually create pinches and bubbles in the mesh. So if we just leave this one as a 5-sided, then it'll still just stay smooth. The end result's the main thing you're after, so if the end result's smooth, then that's all good. Basically, if you're doing cylindrical work, like border work for scaling and whatnot, it's always easier to just collapse the symmetry while you're there, and then you can just scale in with the border selection, which makes things a lot easier. Basically just creating a little hard chamfer here, and just adding in the edge loops. And we have a nice smooth hole. Because we added in a new edge, we didn't account for the curve. So essentially we just moved that up a bit to adjust it really. And what I forgot to do, because we cut it into the mesh, the cap on the fuel cap's actually supposed to be flat. So we'll basically go back in and edit that. So, by using the snap tool to trace round, that basically cuts the cylinder into the mesh we've already got. Whereas what we want to do is create a flat hole in the mesh. So we'll just go back in and edit that now. Just making a circle ref here just in case. So after scaling we could actually take it out from being a perfect circle. Yeah, we'll just grab all these verts and then we'll just move it all together. It's angled down a little bit, so we just use the rotator to move it down like 5 degrees or so. And we'll just double check with our circle ref, which looks still circular, so we just delete that. And then we'll just create the little chamfered edge again. So scale in, push it down, shift drag as usual. Now we've got a shape, we just add in our edge loops to finish it. Essentially, if the edge connect chamfer doesn't get you the right edges you're after, you can just select the middle edge, use a ring, and then just scale them in till you get the right distance between the edges you want. Yeah, just delete that half and use the symmetry again. Okay, the final shape's pretty much there now, so we're just doing the final finishing touches just to make sure it looks like a complete piece once we cover it with all the other pieces. Again, every time we move something, just double check the final mesh. This middle piece needs to curve in a little bit more than we've got at the moment, so we'll just edit that. Basically just tweak to make sure the final mesh is nice and even, matches the reference, and make sure it's all clean. Essentially looking from the top view, the creases should be the furthest out, so we just need to push the bottom line in a bit. And basically just select the border, just an easy way to add in the extra edges, just to finish the piece off really. And we'll just add in edge loops as usual. And as for the reference, we need a hard edge here. So all hard edges, you basically just continue the loops. So after doing the symmetry, because we don't want to do it twice, so just use a ring, select what we don't want, and just connect. Slide it down with edge constrain, bring it back up again. And then we just continue our loop down here. Now create our hard edge, and then just do the same again for the other loop. And just do a quick weld there just to make sure the cut tool hasn't gone wrong at all, which it does quite a bit. And then this corner needs to be smooth, so we'll just continue the edge loop around. And that's pretty much it. That's basically a completed tank. And then we'll get moving on to the tank cap in a mo. Let's do a final few quick little adjustments just to even out the bubbles on here. Just a few little finishing touches just to make sure it's all smooth. There we go, that'll do for now. I'll see you in the next bit.